If your CRM was a beautiful 3-scooped banana split ice cream dessert, then enhancing your workflows is the beautiful cherry on top of your sundae. So once you have clean data, once you've whiteboarded with your team and you built and learned to apply some of those workflows, then you can take them to a whole nother level using things like automations, opportunities, send to search, mail merges, roles, and other things we're going to talk about in today's session. So the first and most literal way to enhance workflows is through automations. So automations is our newest, latest tool into Redtail. So if you click on your name in the top right-hand corner, you can go down to manage your account. So we're going to click on our name in the top right-hand corner, and we're going to go down to manage your account. And underneath manage your account, sort of within the middle of the page, you do have a section here that says manage templates. And within the manage templates area, the first option you have is automation templates. Now, your system is not going to come with any automations. So that page is going to be completely blank when you open it up. But what we're talking about in today's session are best practices. So you can learn from today and apply those best practices to your system and your firm. So right now you are looking at an automation. And when you think of an automation, or what I think of at least, is I kind of think of my email filters. If anyone out there listening has ever set up an email filter, then you've essentially set up an automation. And what I mean by that is if I receive an email from my broker dealer, or let's say if I receive an email from Redtail Technology, then I created a folder within my email folders that says broker dealer or that says Redtail. So if I receive that broker dealer email, it's going to push right into that broker dealer folder. Or if I get an email from Redtail Technology, it's going to push right into that Redtail Technology folder. So if you've done something similar to that, then you set up an automation. So an automation to me is an if-then statement. If you do this action, then you want this to happen. So on this event is your very first step. So you're going to go ahead and name the automation, and you're going to have some trigger events here to select from. Now, coming soon, there will be options added to this list. So keep checking and you will continue to see this list grow. But before we get into this list, I do want to show some of the workflows that we've been working on throughout this series so we can automate those workflows and show how really cool this tool can be. So I'm going to click on my name in the top right hand corner again, and I'm going to go down to manage your account, but I still want this page open that I'm on right now. So I'm not just going to click on manage your account, I'm going to right click on manage your account. So that way I can select open link and new tab, and it's going to lock in this page for me to continue to work on, but it's going to open up a new page for manage your account for me to go ahead and navigate to other parts of the CRM as well. So I told you I wanted to show off some of those workflows that we've been working on. So underneath Manage Templates, let's select Workflow Templates. And all the way at the bottom, we have ours designated with this WW in the beginning. So the first one I want to show you is this important information workflow. So earlier in the series, we talked about when we add a contact to the system that's a person, whether that's a prospect or it's an actual client, then we want to make sure that we have these pieces of information successfully filled out on that record to say we've added that person to the CRM. So this is kind of our checklist. I want to make sure I have their social. I want to make sure I have their numbers, and all of that needs to be done for us to finish this workflow. So a great way to enhance this workflow is through an automation, because a trigger event that is located here is if a contact has been added. So let's just say that whenever we add a contact to our database, we want to make sure we have these key pieces of information on their record. So we're going to put mandatory information required. And go ahead and provide a description. It takes a little front end work right now, but think about later down the line when you're trying to train somebody new, you could just refer to this description and they're going to know exactly what this automation entails. So let's go ahead and describe it, All right, I made it a little bit dramatic there, but I am a stickler for clean data. So if we go ahead and add someone new to our system, we need to make sure we have these fields filled out on our record that we just added. If I find out that we're missing a social security number or we're missing an address, I'm going to be upset because we want to make sure we have all of that information on a record to make sure we have clean data. So I was a little dramatic here, but if we add a person to the database, we need to make sure we have these fields filled out on the record or it is bad data. So the next tab I'm going to select on is do this action. So I'm going to select do this action. And underneath the action type, same thing applies here. There are going to be many more options coming soon. So keep checking up on this list, keep checking out on those release notes, because this list will continue to grow. But we're talking about workflows in this series, so let's optimize our workflow process by going ahead and linking that important information workflow to that record. Now, the next tab I selected here was if all conditions true. You also, excuse me, you also have the option here for if any condition is true. And these two tabs right here that I'm highlighting, these are going to make sure that you do not tie your shoelaces together when operating in the CRM. Because right now, the way this automation is set up is if I add anything new to the system, whether it's a person, a business, an association, a trust, or a union, it's going to automatically attach that workflow. And that might be applicable. It might be totally appropriate to leave that automation in place. But for me, it doesn't make sense because I only want that automation to apply if it's a person. I don't want that automation to apply if it's a business, a trust, a union, an association. So I'm going to go ahead and select if all conditions are true. I'm underneath if all. And I'm going to select new condition here in the top right hand corner. And I'm going to add in my first condition, which for me, it's going to be if the contact type is a person. So I don't care if it's a business, a trust, a union, an association, it has to be a person. So I'm going to go ahead and select on individual and add that condition. And now I kind of set a straight route where it has to be a person if this workflow attaches. But I still don't want to stop there because I still have people that could be added into my system that are people that aren't needing to follow this whole process, because maybe I'm using the system for my own personal contacts, my own personal friends. Well, I don't need to know my personal friends' social security numbers. So I can use the status list to classify my personal friends, my active clients, my prospects. So that way, if I go ahead and add in a person who is a client, we can go ahead and make sure that this automation gets applied. So right now I'm putting that if the person is an active person, then we have this workflow attached. But I also have this workflow. I think this workflow also needs to be followed for my prospects as well. Because even if I just met somebody at lunch today and I added them to the system, I still want to go through that list and try to get as much information as I can. Maybe I'm not going to get the social until like 9 months from now when he actually or she actually gives the money from their account into ours. But still, that workflow will be live in action and I'll know where this prospect is in that information gathering process. So for this status, I'm going to set this to prospect. So if I add in a person that is either an individual, that is either an active client or a prospect, that workflow will attach. Perfect. So that is already created. Now I want to go ahead and show that action or that automation in action. So what I did is I clicked on the recently viewed icon in the top right hand corner. It looks like a person saying help me or pay attention to me. And I'm clicking on my quick list because I do have a list in here for prospects. So I'll just click on my cold prospects here to show as an example. So right now I have all of these cold prospects in here. And if I had that automation in place already, then everyone in this list would have that workflow automatically added to their record. But I just added that automation right now. So if I click quick add in the top right hand corner and I choose to add in somebody new I just met at lunch, let's say, then I'm going to show you that that automation is going to work. So I have to make sure that I follow that criteria of making sure it's a person I'm adding to the system. So I selected on individual, and then I could go ahead and add in my person's name. So I'm going to go ahead and add in Gordon Ramsay, and I'm going to go down to status because that was another criteria. Remember, I didn't want to add it if it was in a lead or a business. I wanted to make sure it was either an active or a prospect. So I'm going to go ahead and signify that I just met Gordon Ramsay at lunch and he's a prospect that I think I can work with. And there we go. Automatically, we have workflows that have been attached. And if I select on that active workflows, you'll notice that we have the workflows automatically added there. And right now you'll see two because I tied my shoelaces together. If I go back to the Manage Your Account section, I'm going to open that in a new tab. And if I go back to my automation templates, I have two of the very same automations here. So I have my mandatory information one that I just added, but I also have this important information trigger that I had as well. So I made a boo-boo here. You know, I had two in place already. So you want to make sure that you don't tie your shoelaces together and you at least make one inactive or you delete an automation altogether. But nonetheless, I still showed that I had no tricks up my sleeve. All I did was I added Gordon Ramsay to my system and I added him as a person and a prospect, and this workflow automatically attached to his record. So now the client service team can get on to getting his information into the system to complete this workflow. So that is a great way to enhance your workflow, is through an automation like that. If I go back here to our automation page, we can also enhance it in we can also enhance other workflows that we have. We have a workflow that we worked on in here for onboarding. So let's go back here to our workflow templates, and let's show this onboarding one that we've been working on throughout this series. So in this series, we showed that if we go ahead and add somebody that we have changed from a prospect to an active client, then we want this workflow to be attached. Because if prospect A talks to prospect B, we want them to say they had the same experience. You know, they got the same swag bag, they got the same amount of calls, and they had that same onboarding experience. So if you have a process like this that you want to go ahead and implement to your system, you can automate something like this as well. So we have this already built into the system as well. So if you do add someone new to the system and you change them from a prospect to an active client, it'll go ahead and do that. So let's click add in the new top right hand corner, and let's add in that new automation we'll build together. And we'll name this onboarding automation, and we'll describe this a little bit. Perfect. So that way if we add someone new to our team, they could just look at this description and see, oh, okay, this is going to make sure that everyone gets that same experience. So now we need to choose that trigger event. So we already talked about this. You know, if we have Gordon Ramsay in our system as a prospect, and I've been working with Gordon very diligently, I've been meeting with him and planning with him, and he's ready to give me his money and he's ready to come on board to the firm. Then what happens is I change his status from prospect to active, because he's not a prospect anymore, he's an active client. So our trigger event in this action is if we change a contact status. So I'm going to choose contact status changed. And now I'm going to choose for that workflow that we created throughout the series to be added. And now I'm going to make sure our shoelaces don't get tied together here. So we need to make sure that the contact status is equal to active. So if we just added Gordon in as a prospect, it's not going to add in this workflow yet. We're going to make sure that he needs to be an active client before that workflow gets attached. So it's going to be a little bit confusing, in my opinion, doing this with Gordon, just because two workflows attached. But in a moment, when I change his contact status from prospect to active and I refresh the page, this active workflows number is going to change from 2 to 3. So it doesn't make sense in this example just because it's such a high number of workflows, but just see how I have no tricks up my sleeve and that number changes automatically. So we'll go ahead and change Gordon from prospect to active. We'll go ahead and refresh that page, and there we go. I didn't physically add another workflow to his record. It automatically added to his record because we changed his status from prospect to active. So automations is a great way to go ahead and enhance your workflows. Another great way to enhance your workflows is through roles. Now, I'm going to go ahead and click on my recently viewed icon again, and I'm going to open up two people here. I'm going to open up Emmett Brown in a new tab, and I'm going to open up Bruce Wayne in a new tab. And let's go ahead and pick on Doc Brown first. If I'm on Doc Brown's record, on the left-hand side, you have More. If you click More and you go down to Permissions and Roles, this is something new that we added to the system as well that might help enhance your workflows as well, and it's Roles. So if I'm on Doc Brown's roles, you'll notice that Tucker is his advisor, Tabitha is the associate, and Jack is the CSA. Now you cannot customize these terms up here, so if they don't apply to your office, just mentally think, associate advisor means marketing manager, or CSA means assistant, whatever terms or make sense to your firm. But if you look here, you'll notice this is Doc's team. This is specific to Doc. And if I go over here to Bruce Wayne, and I go to More, and I go to his permission and roles, a totally different team is here. Tara is the advisor, Samantha is the associate, and Jeremy is the CSA. So a way to enhance your workflows is you can build a one process for anything that it could be. Maybe you want to do one process for onboarding, but you want to make sure that when you apply that onboarding process, Tara would get her assignments, Sam would get their assignments, and if we go over here to Doc's record, Tucker would get their assignments and Tabitha would get their assignments. You could use roles to go ahead and optimize that process. So we kind of talked about this already, because if we go back here to our onboarding workflow, we have assigned these tasks to those roles. So another great way to enhance your workflows is to use roles. So that way, if we go over here to Doc's record and we choose to add in, let's say, that onboarding workflow, we could go ahead and create that workflow, and based on the teammates that were mentioned in the roles, it'll go ahead and take over that designation. So Jack took over this role, Tucker took over this one, Tabitha took over this one. But if I go over here to Bruce and I add the same exact workflow, it's going to change the workflow assignments to the team that applies. So instead of having Jack and Tucker and Tabitha, it's going to have Tara, it's going to have Jeremy, and it's going to have Sam. So keep roles in mind as a great way to enhance your workflows as well. Also, with workflows, you can add multiple contacts to one workflow. So let's say we are doing a REIT campaign. We have some land here in the area, and we think it would be a great REIT campaign for some local residents. So I can go ahead and add in a new workflow, and this is one that I'm going to create off the bat. It's not one that's a template inside of my system. I'm just creating this on the go because it's something that came up today. So I'm going to name this as the REIT campaign workflow and create it as a brand new one. And we could go ahead and make sure that all of the options are selected correctly so it gets tiered out appropriately. But now let's go ahead and create a simple little workflow here for our REIT campaign. So that way we can take those people that are geographically located by that real estate, and we can go ahead and move them through our campaign together and see who's interested at the end. So I'm going to make this a two-step process, and the first step that I'm going to make is I'm going to make an email. So I'm going to have an email all clients in geographic location. And we'll go ahead and update that step. And then within that step, I'm going to add in a new task, and I'm going to say what I want to email to those clients. So I'm going to put in the white paper that I want to email. And maybe you have a certain place you're pulling that white paper from. You could go ahead and type in that location here. All right, and then I'm going to add in a next step where after we go ahead and we email everyone, we're going to send invites to an info event. And underneath that specific step, I'm going to add in one task that will be the mail merge, or I'm going to add in two tasks. The first one will be to run the mail merge. So that way we go ahead and make sure that every single person has a letter. But then I also want to make sure we print the labels to complement that letter. So I'm going to add in a new task that says run labels, so our team makes sure to complete both. All right, so we just made a really quick workflow. It was a one-off workflow on the go. This is our ReCampaign. Right now, no one is linked to this, but what we're proving here is that we can link multiple contacts to this one workflow and move them together. So now my next step is to get those contacts linked to this campaign. And I can go one by one and link them over to this existing workflow, but my most suggested way is to do an advanced search. So that way you can cast a net over your group and invite them in bulk. So if I go ahead and select on type, I'm going to select on address. So I can search on address level data, and for field, I'm going to go down here to zip because I want to search everyone in this geographically distinct location so I can target them for this marketing campaign. So I'm going to have this begin with 852 because everyone that's located in the Metro Phoenix area has a zip code that begins with 852. So here I have 22 records, and the best way to market is through target marketing. So this is a great target group of clients that I would want to move through that ReCampaign together. So I can go over to contact options to select on bulk actions, and I can go ahead and add a workflow to these records. So you have a ton of options here available. And we're going to go down here to W to select workflow link. And we're going to go ahead and select on that workflow we just created for our ReCampaign. And we're going to link these 22 contacts to that workflow. So I think I had it open here in a new tab here. Let's see. Nope, I don't have it open still. So let's go over here to workflows on the left-hand side so we can view our live active workflows in action right now. And let's go down here to our ReCampaign. And I don't even need to click on it. You can just see there's already 22 contacts added to this workflow. So I took all of those people in the Metro Phoenix area and I added them to this workflow. So now they can move through this email together. They could move through this invite together. So another great way to optimize workflows is by using the send to search option. So if I go back here to our overall workflow page for our live workflows, underneath this action icon, you do have an option here that says send to search. And send to search is one of my favorite things to do because you could actually do something with this list. You know, the first step of my workflow was to email these clients about this opportunity. So I can go ahead and click on all of their records. I can go to contact options, down to bulk actions to select on broadcast email. So then I can create one email talking about this REIT campaign opportunity, but I can send it to those 22 people. And I can even customize that letter so that way it doesn't feel like the 22 other people were receiving that letter, but it's only that person receiving it. So a great other way to enhance your workflows is through that send to search option. So then you can actually do something with that list, whether that is a broadcast email, maybe you wanted to skip to the second step and you just wanted to send the invites to that info night, then you could go ahead and select on mail merges. So you can go ahead and apply those 22 contacts to that invite for your REIT campaign info event and get those printed. And even the next task set to print out those labels. So while everyone's here, you can click on that contact option to select on labels and go ahead and get those labels printed as well. So you can add multiple contacts to the workflow to enhance it. You can send those contacts to the search page and move them through the email process together, the invite process together, the label process together, and then your whole campaign could be complete at the end. Some other tools that also benefit from workflows are opportunities and seminars. So if we go click on our name again in the top right hand corner, I'm going to go back down here to manage your account. Underneath manage your account within manage templates, let's go back to our workflow templates because I want to show you a workflow template we have in here for our client events. So every time we host a client event, we find we do the same exact thing over and over again. We set the venue, we set the catering, we set the guest list, we send the invites. So we took that step-by-step process that we repeat over and over again, and we turned it into this checklist. So we just need to make sure we do all of these things to make sure we host an event. So a great way to optimize your seminars is to take this step-by-step process and apply it to that seminar. So maybe you're hosting this tax education event and you want to make sure that you set the venue, set the catering, set the guest list, and all of that. Then you can go ahead and add a workflow to this seminar. So if you actually click on the seminar, you do have an area down here for workflows. And if you click add in the new if you click add in the top right hand corner, you can go down to create new workflow and you can go ahead and choose that one that we showed you from your templates and go ahead and add it to this event. And we can rename it to so maybe we have multiple ones going on at once. We can make sure that we know which one is which. So now what we just did is we optimized our seminar by attaching a workflow to that seminar. So that way, if we host an event, we make sure we go through this step-by-step process and we make sure that nothing is slipping through the cracks. But that is through your seminars. Another great way to optimize your workflows is through your opportunities. So remember that opportunities is your sales pipeline for either new business or existing business. So let's click on our name in the top right. Let's go back to our workflows. I'm going to open up it in a new tab this time so I can go back to this opportunities page. And I'm going to go down here to workflow templates. And let's see what we have in here. We have some workflows in here created for underwriting. We have one in here for prospecting. So if we do have a prospect process that we want to make sure our clients go through, make sure they have this first phone call, the second letter, the first welcome letter. We actually did build one together. If we go down here to the client touches marketing workflow, this one might be one that applies where maybe I met someone at lunch and I want to make sure that I show them that I'm a market leader in the industry by knowing all of the knowledge that they want to know about real estate and annuities and insurance and tax. Then I can go ahead and send them some marketing items after I meet them. So if I'm interested in doing that, I can create a workflow to go ahead and outline those things I want to send, like we did earlier in the series. And then when we meet that person, we can go ahead and add that contact to the system. So maybe we learned, Vern was going to inherit some money at lunch, and we wanted to add him in as an opportunity. And we could go over here to add workflow and attach a workflow that we created to go ahead and move this contact through that process. So if I want them to move through that marketing process that we created together, we could go ahead and create that workflow. And now it'll link this workflow onto this opportunity, and you can go through that process. And if I click on, if I click on my question mark in the top right-hand corner and I go to the Redtail Help Desk and I click on the training sessions tile here, I can go all the way down to the bottom to this workflow workshop that you guys have been checking out and watching. All the way at the bottom here, you do have workflow templates. So make sure you check out these workflow templates so you can go ahead and not be reinventing the wheel. And the page I'm looking at right now has an opportunity workflow. So if you do want to optimize your opportunity process, maybe you make sure you go through this specific sales process to give them the correct information, then feel free to use this templates as a resource so you can build out that workflow and then enhance your opportunity with that workflow. Going down here, you have other options. There's like 10 of them in here. So make sure you use this as a resource. So that way you get a more applicable template to learn so that you can see if you can optimize your opportunity process. But other than that, we are always looking to enhance workflows. Workflows is the big buzzword in your industry. They're not going away. They're only going to get better. So if you have any tips or tricks, suggestions, ideas that you would want to see applied to these workflows, then feel free to click on the question mark in the top right-hand corner and open up our suggest a feature or enhancement. So that way you can go ahead and type in your suggestion, see if it's already been applied. If so, you can vote on it. And if not, you can add in your ideas to see if we can optimize it. But otherwise, we are always here to help. If you have any questions, feel free to call our team at 800-206-5030, and that's option 3 for support. And we're more than happy to remote into your screen, troubleshoot any issues, demonstrate anything, and help with whatever is going on. So other than that, thank you guys so much for your time today. Hopefully we learned some tips today that can enhance our workflows and add some value to our firm. And otherwise, have a great rest of the day. Thank you and take care.